welcome everyone here. First item on the agenda is the public hearing. And for those of you that have been at public hearings before, there's this long-winded, wordy chairperson statement which I have to read out. So I will do so, and then we can proceed with the public hearing. This public hearing is being convened pursuant to the Community Charter and Local Government Act. In accordance with the Charter, the time and place of the public hearing was advertised in 2 editions of the Hope Standard newspaper. In accordance with the District of Hope application procedure and public hearing information meeting procedural bylaw number 1393 and the Local Government Act, the required specifications have been complied with. At this public hearing, any persons who believe that their interest in the subject property is affected by the proposed agenda item may speak or present written submissions to council on this matter. As chairperson, I will read any written briefs from persons unable to attend this public hearing so that they may become part of the record. Those who wish to speak should, when invited to speak, clearly state their name and address for the record. It is important that all who speak at this meeting restrict their remarks to the matters contained in the bylaws. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making his or her views known. Members of council may ask questions of those making presentations. The main function of council at the public hearing is to listen to the comments of the public, not to debate the merits of the bylaws. Members of council may debate any issues on the bylaws at the time of third or final reading. The order of proceedings will be as follows. Number 1, the Director of Community Development, Mr. Jazz Gill, will briefly describe the matters under consideration and provide a brief explanation of the proposed bylaws. 2, the applicant or agent for the applicant may be invited to comment. 3, all written submissions will form part of the record of the public hearing. 4, oral submissions from the public will be heard, and any further written submissions, if any, will be received. And then 5, the public hearing will be closed. It's important to note that no further submissions from either verbal or written regarding the proposed bylaws can be made to the council following the public hearing. After this public hearing has concluded, the council may, without further notice, give whatever effect it believes proper to the representations made at this public hearing. This public hearing is being convened in order to hear public input on District of Hope Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw 1398-2017 to redesignate the property at 59850 Hunter Creek Road from the land use designation of limited use to comprehensive development. And 2, the District of Hope Zoning Amendment Bylaw 1399-2017 at the same property at 59850 Hunter Creek Road from limited use to comprehensive development. So I'd like to start by calling upon Mr. Jazz Gill to introduce this.
Your Worship, Honorable Council, this CD4 zone that is being proposed in front of you here for this public hearing is for the purpose of just rezoning the property to this site-specific zone. This zone is basically the backbone of the limited use zone with extra uses of water bottling, packing, warehousing, distribution, campground, a micro hydro facility, and it also gives limited subdivision abilities.
Okay, and the agent for the proponent is here, sir.
My name is Ryan Anderson. My company is OTG Developments, and I represent the developers. The address for my company.
And actually, sir, just so that the Hope ratepayers are taping this, so if you want it to be heard, you might want to just kind of go to the side a little bit, like that. That'll probably work fine right there.
Okay here?
Yeah.
Okay. So to repeat, my name is Ryan Anderson, and my company is OTG Developments. We represent the developers. The address for the company is 520-45715 Hocking Avenue in Chilliwack. We don't have a presentation today, but more than anything else, I wanted to introduce myself and let Mayor and Council know that we're here to answer any questions about obviously the proposal, what the intentions are from the company, employment, and anything along those lines.
Okay. So I guess I hope this is a fair question. No timelines on this project. Were you thinking sooner than later, or what?
We'd like to get started. So we've got to make it through, as is delineated in the report that Jazz has provided. If we get through this rezoning process, then we obviously have to go through some development permit processes associated with geotechnical and environmental issues. We've started down that process a little bit already, obviously, making sure we've done a little bit of due diligence, making sure that it's at least feasible to do what we would like to do, looking for building envelopes, working with an architect and a builder, all of these types of things. So we're definitely wanting to move forward with the development as quickly as possible, but obviously have some steps to go through before we get to actually breaking ground.
And this question might be a premature question, but public always asks when there's new development in the community, how many jobs will be created, which is kind of a, I think, interesting and pertinent question.
Approximately?
In phase one, we're forecasting between 15 and 20 jobs, depending on, you know, how quickly we can ramp up sales for the operation. But there'll be jobs like, you know, accounting, bookkeeping, logistics, operations, sales and marketing positions.
Okay. Questions from council? Mr. Henderson?
Did you have any for questions?
No questions from council too. Anyone have any questions, Mr. Henderson?
Not at this time.
All pretty self-explanatory. This one.
Thank you.
Okay, now I guess the next natural step is to, there's a couple of written submissions here. There's one here. Is Mr. Sean Morris in attendance today?
I don't see Mr. Morrison.
Yeah, because Mr. Morris sent a document in here which staff has very diligently checked over here, and there's some very interesting accusations here, not even remotely pertaining to this development, so we have to, obviously we can't pass out as a district defamatory information, so he had to black out information. So what I'd like to suggest, if it's the will of council, is that we have this document available for anyone that would like to see it. It doesn't read very well because there's a lot of sections that have had to have been blacked out. It almost seems like Mr. Morris has some issues that are not remotely pertaining to this rezoning based on the content of the letter. So I think that just to make it easy, we'll just leave it as part of the record. If anyone wants to look at the document, we'll have exactly the document that we have in front of us available. But reading it out without having the black parts, the blacked out parts filled in does not make a lot of sense. It would be just, plus it's not even pertinent to this particular rezoning, so that is that. Now we have correspondence from the regional district that we received, which is good. I think everyone's read over that. And I'd like to call the members of the public to speak to this if they so wish.
I'd like to speak to it.
Director Adamson from the regional district.
Yes, from the regional district. I'll just get my notes here, sorry. I was looking at the
And what's your, you
Field Box 96 ELBC, BOK 2SO,
okay.
and I'm speaking as the electoral director.
Yeah. Yeah, Director Dennis Adamson from the regional district.
Okay, just let me come, bear with me, people, sorry. It's the phone, not me. No, it's me. It's me. Okay, the letter that was sent is, I just want to make it clarified that it's sent by staff, is just general land use planning information regarding the property within the FERD electoral area B.
Could you speak up, please?
Sorry, I just
Thank you.
want the letter that was submitted from the FERD. It was sent to the Hope Count staff only as information. It's not a support or against. I just want that on the board. Because I read in the thing that it was a supporting letter, and it's just a letter that gives information. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Additional comments from the public?
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Erickson?
I'm not out of order here. I'd like to know.
What's your address, please?
I'm right next door,
Address, please.
59895 Hunter Creek Road.
Okay, thank you, perfect.
I just want to know, possibly if anyone has any information on the actual sound of the bottling plant, because I am not experienced in that area. And the other question is the hydro development. I'm in favor of everything, but I just want to know, to make sure that there's not more sound that's really gonna annoy, like the neighbor, which is me, because we have a valley, as we all know. There's where the stream runs, and the sound comes up from the highway, and it bangs every time. And I'm wondering if it will do the same if you have a hydro plant, depending on where they put it. So I'm interested to know if they can give us an idea of where the hydro plant would be and where the plant would be, so that there's not a whole racket next door to you.
Fair question through the proponent.
I'll address the first question in regards to the sound. Obviously, there's going to be more sound than its current state. It's going
Will
to be
you
a lot.
look this way when you speak, or speak up, because I'm sorry, I'm almost 80. So we need a horn here.
My apologies, Ms. Erickson.
Thank you.
Obviously, there will be more sound on the property than currently exists with the property right now. It's essentially a residential
Okay, what
style
kind
property.
of sound are we talking about?
Well, there will be trucks coming to and from the property periodically, obviously
Trucks
to.
are okay.
Okay, good. And then, obviously, there will be some sounds of the bottling facility itself, but bearing in mind that generally speaking, the bottles are plastic now as opposed to a glass bottle, so it should be relatively minimalistic.
And you don't know exactly where it's going to be placed on the property? It's going to be placed right near the pipeline, or is it further back?
Well, right now, we've identified two major building envelopes that we consider to be viable at this time. And you're obviously familiar with the property, so.
Not that familiar, but
Okay.
if you can pinpoint those for me, that would be great.
Well, if you can envision it a little bit, there's two main accesses onto the property. So the access that would be, if my northeast, south, and west are accurate, further to the east, there's a secondary access. So from about that access up to where the right-of-way exists for gas, essentially, how much would it be? About 400 feet west of there, looking for about approximately somewhere to start off with about a 10 to 40,000 square foot footprint. Okay, does that help?
Let's be a little more specific.
Okay.
Okay, so if you're crossing the road, from the road there's a pipeline running right along beside the hydro, the immediate hydro.
Yeah.
Okay, so now this has got to be beyond that, right?
It's basically in between, Ms. Erickson.
It's right in between.
Yeah, because if
So
you
you're looking at about 50 feet.
off of the road,
Yes.
I would say that's relatively accurate. Yes. Yeah.
That's pretty close.
Yeah. Well, of course, we are
And there's
confined.
another building envelope, you say?
Yeah, and we haven't looked at this one quite as much. We're happier with the upper bench, but down below where the majority of the residences are, there's some building envelopes in there as well.
Well, that would be much better for me, of course.
To be honest with you, I like that area a little better myself, but where we've started looking is the area I was just referencing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about the hydro plant?
Thank you, Councillor Graham and Councillor Erickson.
Just one comment is that, we're really not at the development stage right now, we're just kind of at the rezoning portion of it, but I'm just thinking, like, in the future, if this does go ahead, that, you seem fairly reasonable, and good neighbors and good fences go together, so do good buffer zones, so maybe there's a potential for a nice hedge of some sort that's kind of a little help in being a sound barrier and dust barrier.
Sure.
Because no woman wants to continuously dust from big trucks.
Sure.
So if, or man for that matter, so if, not that many do, but anyway. So just a thought though. Just a thought, good neighboring,
Well,
for sense.
Mr. Gill might be able to correct me on this, but if I'm not mistaken, we would be going through some form of a forming character on the building that would include some landscaping.
There would be.
Yeah, and on top of that, I don't mind if the ownership group wants to meet with Ms. Erickson after the fact and we can try and work something out with her. Because we'd rather have a good neighbor experience all the way around. So, and we're not talking about great expense.
So sorry, Ms. Erickson,
She's otherwise engrossed. Hey, Ms. Erickson?
Mr. Anderson did mention that the group may be interested in talking to you a little bit later about forming some kind of a sound barrier or dust barrier or something like that, so that, you know, there's a little bit of give and take there.
Yeah, well, I understand that it's going to be on the west side, not the east side.
I get the map.
It's not gonna be all the way to the west. It'll be, again, like the easiest way to describe it is where that secondary access comes in.
May I speak
Go
up
ahead,
here?
Taffy.
As
Pardon me,
the
Ms.
longtime
Anderson.
owner of the property, I think I can help Ann here, and we've been chatting off the record a little bit. And the area is not directly across from Ann's gate, which is what she was thinking. The secondary area, the area of secondary choice, my understanding.
She said.
Yes, so we're talking the gate right across from you, Ann, but the building envelope would be somewhat, what direction is that?
Going into
Towards the
the
Emil
property.
Anderson pit is the simplest way that I can
Correct.
describe it. And Ann says that she's comfortable with that, but she doesn't want to be looking out her living room window right at the facility, which is not where that envelope is.
Right, so if I'm correct in assuming where your property faces this property, then it would be the access that is directly across from yours would be the beginning of it. But then it's more likely that there's going to be a parking facility there, and then the building will be going into the property, if you follow me. So basically, if you're facing the property from the street to your right is where the majority of the building would go.
Okay.
Okay.
You're not really right into it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Erickson.
I was just gonna comment on the regional district letter. It was for information, it said you for supporting the application on there. I was just gonna say it was just for information, that's all. Go on.
Yeah, that's exactly what Director Adamson brought up. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, and you didn't address anything about the hydro plant.
I was going to.
Okay. The question pertaining to the micro hydro.
Yeah, what we're seeing there at this point more than anything else is there are, to our awareness, 2 licenses for micro hydro upstream, not on this property, but upstream, the same water course, Hunter Creek, that's on the property, that are being operated by by one First Nations, the 2 licenses. And more than anything else at this time, what we're seeing is our current understanding is that there's a shortfall in infrastructure that would allow that to be the most productive that it could be. So more than anything else, what we're seeing is something that would be relatively quiet in the form of, say, a transfer station or a piece of hydro equipment that is not currently available in the area, just on the property.
Yeah, I can put up my hand with long experience on the property. The developers who are doing the run of the river up above the property have looked for some time at coming down on the west side, which is in the regional district, which again would be far removed from Ann.
Right. And we've actually touched base with that First Nations group, and we've invited them to meet with us because we're obviously very interested in meeting with them to see if we can help with their infrastructure.
Okay, sounds pretty good. Additional comments from the public? Okay, I'd like to, yeah, okay.
Just on the size, I remember last time I was here, you were gonna build 100,000 square foot water bottling place, right? That, so, how many bottles do you think you'll be taking a day out of there? Anybody know, like, how big is Nestle's, what did they take?
The first phase of the project, you know, we're envisioning somewhere between 15 to 20,000
A day?
square
Oh,
feet,
square feet.
facility.
Right,
You know, the idea was to you know,
Expand?
down the road, but that's yet to be seen. That might be, you know, first phase might be good for 5 years kind of thing, and then
So
expand.
eventually, you'll be size of Nestle's,
No,
half?
where I think the best way to view us would be, you know, you have Molson, which is like Nestle's, we're like a craft boutique kind of
So
operation.
How many trucks a day,
Yeah.
that's, seems to be
Probably to start out, one a day.
one a day, and then
And
down the
then
road?
building in the end of year 2 to between 2 and 3 a day.
Okay, because I have, Hope has Nestle's, of course, in their area, but the trucks go through my area. And on a hot summer day, they tell me like 50 to 100 trucks are going back, well, say maybe it's 50 going back, loading, come back, right?
Yeah,
So we get all the traffic in the area B.
yeah.
So, we, you know, like to know the numbers that you're planning
In
eventually.
our financial model, it shows kind of ramping, starting out in the year 1, you know, 1 container a day, and then by the end of year 2, 3 containers a day potentially.
Okay,
So that would be like each truck could take a container, so,
like a 40-foot,
yeah, so, you know, it would be between 1 and 3 trucks
Okay.
for the first few years.
and then hopefully you build up till there's
Yeah,
10 a day, or?
yeah. If you did
Are you working certain hours? Like,
Uh,
what time is this place opening? Is it opening at 6 in the morning and operating till?
It'd probably be, like, the shift would probably be 8 AM to 4 PM, and then.
Okay, so that's pretty reasonable, that the people come to work, you know, at 7, you know, they're farmers there anyway, so they get up early, and you quit by supper time, is what you're
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, I mean, the idea is to spend a little bit more on the equipment, so you can have capacity to do more bottles per minute instead of adding more shifts and more time to the.
But in the future, do you plan, like, if your business grows, which hopefully it does, that you expand and you go to more shifts, so there'll be,
Well, I mean, hopefully we have
hopefully,
that
right?
capacity, or add another bottling line. It depends on, you know, we wanna be a good neighbor, and I've always signed, in any business I've been involved in, I've always used to signing good neighbor agreements with people.
Okay.
And if we're not disturbing anyone and we can work over 16 hours, fine, or add more equipment and do it within the 8-hour period.
Yeah, no, I just wanna, because I'm gonna get
Yeah.
questions, because even though you're building at Hope,
Yeah,
you know, you're driving through Area B.
yeah,
right?
I
And that,
understand.
sometimes creates a problem. But, you know, you sound like you're willing to work, and, staff said you're willing to work, and this gentleman here is doing a good job, so I just,
Yeah.
this is just the rezoning, so if you guys decide to go ahead with this, then later on we'll have the plans to build. How come this isn't shot up on the wall, the map? I'm just asking.
Just having the package, having the package.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And could we also address the small zone of residential you were mentioning? Could you tell us what that's all about?
Well, that's permitted in the existing zone, correct? Residential is permitted in the existing zone, Ms. Erickson. There's no alteration from the existing
Oh, I see.
zone, so that's,
So there's no.
and I think
plan-
speaking to the traffic volume issue, I think that the public's well aware that there's already a round-the-clock rest area there where there's, you know, quite a fair volume, so 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 trucks probably won't be noticed, so I don't think there's gonna be a huge problem.
Well, I'm already,
Councillor Erickson?
Yeah, last time you were here, you said, if I understood right, do you have water rights to that property? Does that property have water rights? I thought you said you had 2 water right permits for that property,
Currently, there's 2 commercial licenses on the property.
on that property?
Yeah,
The one that rezoning,
the one that exists as of right now.
okay.
Yeah.
And the owners own that water rights?
The water rights currently are with the land, not the owner.
No, I understand that, but the owners have access to that water right,
Correct.
because they own, okay, just want to check.
The license exists associated with the title and the address of the property.
So it doesn't, and it also limits the amount of water you can take out of the stream.
It's Well, to my understanding is that we're not looking at, I mean, obviously there's a symbiotic relationship between the stream and the aquifer, but it's not necessarily the stream that the water rates are with, it's water on the property.
There is water on the property?
There's one water course on the
Oh,
property.
you're talking about groundwater now, not the stream.
There's two active wells, including a commercial well.
Okay, I thought you had water rates at Hunter Creek that you were talking about. You do?
Directly to the Hunter Creek as well.
So then they limit the amount of water you can take out of that?
Yeah,
Water
there's a-
rates-
there's a
The water
limitation.
rates limit you the water, the amount of.
Yeah, each license, on the surface water, there's a limit, well, this one has there's groundwater and surface water, both on the same property right now, but the right now is on the surface water.
Just to be noted, if you checked this year and last year, the river has definitely gone down. It's about half what it was 2 years ago. And the salmon, if you take a look at the salmon, they are struggling actually to get up the Hunter Creek River.
Well, they don't go all the way up to where the water
No,
will be
they
extracted
don't,
from, so.
but they can't, you should take a look for yourself and take a look and see. Would be better now, you know, but the run is pretty well over, but they were really struggling.
As noted earlier, we've had a preliminary biological assessment of the property from a water course standpoint, and as of right now, we're comfortable with being able to do things in the confines of the law.
Always a good way to do it. Okay, I think we'll close this public hearing and take a couple-minute break, and then we'll head right into council meeting. Thank you all for coming.